You know, from your family to your work projects, you're a part of so many different groups. But have you ever stopped to think about the invisible forces that make them tick? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the secret life of groups and figure out the hidden rules that make them either succeed or totally fall apart.
So, what do they have in common? I mean, on the surface, they seem completely different, right? But deep down, they're all run by the exact same set of principles. Every single one of them has some kind of structure, a purpose, and a personality that kind of emerges from the people in it. And we're about to break down exactly what those principles are.
All right, let's dive right in.
Every single group, no matter what, starts its journey right here by setting up the rules of engagement. And it doesn't matter if it's a super formal committee or just a casual hangout. A rulebook starts getting written from the very first minute people get together. So first up, you've got your ground rules. These are the really obvious ones, right? The things the leader says out loud at the very beginning. Think of a group leader saying, hey, no smoking in here, or a manager saying, let's all try not to interrupt each other. They're the official spoken laws of the land. Okay, but this is where it gets really interesting. Over time, those ground rules become second nature, and they morph into something else, group norms. These are the super powerful, unwritten standards of behavior. It's not just about what you can't do anymore. It's about the whole range of what's considered normal or acceptable. It's basically the group's social DNA. So, if the rules and norms are the foundation of the house, what's the engine that's actually driving everything forward? Well, that brings us to this core idea of group dynamics. Group dynamics is just the official term for studying everything that's happening under the hood. We're talking about the way people interact, the leader's style, how close the team feels, and even the different stages the group goes through over time. It's like the complete blueprint for how a group works. And really, the biggest clue is right there in the name. That word dynamic tells you the most important truth about any group. They are never, ever static. A group is basically a living, breathing thing that's constantly changing and evolving. And you can manage that constant change in different ways. On one side, you've got highly structured groups, like, say, an assertiveness training workshop, that use a ton of exercises to guide everything. On the other side, you have what some people call unstructured groups. But here's a really cool debate for you. Some experts argue that a truly unstructured group can't even exist because humans will always create some kind of structure, even if it's an informal one. So that brings us to the members themselves. If a group is like a living thing, then the members are like the different organs, and each one has a specific job to do. It's kind of like a play, really. We all naturally start to take on certain roles. And experts have pretty much broken these roles down into three main buckets. You've got task roles and maintenance roles, which are both seen as positive. They help the group move forward. And then you've got the self-serving roles, which are negative and can really hold a group back. Let's start with the positive ones. Task roles are all about the mission. These are the people who give information, who ask clarifying questions, who solve problems. Their whole focus is on getting the job done and helping the group hit its target. Then you've got the maintenance roles, which are just as important. These folks are the group's social glue. They're the encouragers, the people who try to create harmony, the ones who are good followers. They're all about strengthening relationships and making sure the whole process is running smoothly. And finally, we have the self-serving roles. Yeah, these are the ones that are totally counterproductive because these folks are putting their own needs way ahead of the group's needs. This could be someone who's constantly criticizing or someone who disagrees with literally everything, or even just someone who completely checks out and refuses to participate. Now, here is a perfect example of a classic task role, the energizer. This is the person who just pumps everyone up. You can feel that positive energy, can't you? They're the ones who really get the ball rolling. But on the flip side, you have this really negative dynamic, the scapegoat. Now, this isn't really a role someone chooses, it's one that gets forced on them. The scapegoat is the one person the whole group decides to blame for all its problems. A good leader would step in and shut this down immediately. Then there's the gatekeeper. This one's a little more complex. On the surface, the gatekeeper tries to make sure everyone gets a chance to talk, which sounds helpful. But a lot of the time, this person secretly wants to be in charge, and they can get so focused on directing traffic that they never actually work on their own stuff. Okay, so we've got our rules and we've got our characters. What's next? Well, now it's time for the plot, because just like people, groups go through a predictable life cycle with some very distinct stages of development. Researchers named Tuckman and Jensen gave us this really famous 5-stage model. It starts with forming. That's when everyone's polite and kind of testing the waters. Then comes storming. And yeah, that's the inevitable conflict and power struggles. If the group makes it through that, they enter norming, where they start to feel like a real team. That leads to performing, which is when the real effective work gets done. And finally, you have adjourning, the end stage where the group wraps up and says goodbye. Now, that norming stage brings us to a really critical idea in group dynamics: cohesion. It's that feeling of unity that every group wants, but as we're about to see, it can also be a pretty dangerous double-edged sword. So group cohesiveness is exactly what it sounds like. It's that feeling of we-ness, that sense of belonging and togetherness that makes a group feel like way more than just a bunch of random individuals. It helps people bond, and it makes them actually want to be there. But here's the trap. While that unity feels amazing, it definitely has a dark side. A group that's too cohesive can actually kill creativity. It boosts conformity. People can get so worried about fitting in and keeping the peace that they just stop challenging bad ideas or offering up new perspectives. Which brings us to the big takeaway here. What is the secret to a healthy, effective group? It all comes down to one word: flexibility. A group is in trouble if its members are stuck in these fixed, rigid roles. The real key is for people to adapt, to know when they need to be a task-focused leader and when they need to be a supportive follower, all in service of what the group needs in that moment. And that leaves us with one final thought. Now that you know the secret language of groups, the rules, the roles, the stages, think about the next group you're a part of. Maybe it's a big meeting at work, maybe it's just dinner with your friends. Be aware of the dynamics that are playing out, and ask yourself, what role does this group need me to play right now? The answer might just surprise you.